Ambassador Kim Tae-woo stood in the massive chamber of Nexus Station looking up at the towering alien delegates, who surrounded him like giant predators circling their prey. The crystalline walls of the Galactic Council Hall stretched high above, his head making him feel smaller than an ant in a cathedral of giants. Each alien species had their own section of the chamber, and each one looked down at him with eyes that burned with contempt and disgust. The Kalari Empire Delegate Chancellor Vorth was the first to speak. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder rolling. Across mountains, his massive blue-scaled form towered over the human ambassador as he leaned forward with his razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the artificial light. Your species has been nothing but trouble since the day you crawled out of your primitive world, Vorth said with a voice that dripped poison. Every word was carefully chosen to hurt and humiliate. We have watched you humans for 50 years. And all we have seen is violence, war, and destruction. You fight each other, you fight us, you fight anyone who gets in your way. Daewoo felt his hands clench into fists at his sides, but he forced himself to remain calm. He had trained for this moment. For years studying alien psychology and diplomatic protocols, he knew that losing his temper would only prove their point about human aggression. The Zephyrian delegate spoke next, and her voice was like electricity crackling through the air. She was a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell that pulsed with different colors. As she spoke, her words hit harder than any physical blow. We have made our decision about your species. Fate, she announced. The galaxy has suffered enough from human interference. You will give up 70% of your colonies immediately. You will destroy 90% of your military fleet. You will allow our observers to live on Earth and watch your every move. This is not a negotiation. This is mercy. Around the chamber, other alien delegates nodded their agreement. The insectoid hive queen Zara clicked her mandibles in what passed for laughter among her kind. Her compound eyes reflected the light like 1,000 tiny mirrors as she stared at the human with undisguised hatred. The Draconian Republic representative, General Crick, slammed his armored fist on his platform, sending vibrations through the floor. His reptilian features twisted into a snarl as he spoke. Your kind does not understand peace. You only understand strength. We will show you what real strength looks like. Tae-woo looked around the chamber, searching for even one friendly face among the assembled delegates. These were supposed to be the civilized species of the galaxy, the ones who had moved beyond war and violence to create a peaceful confederation. Yet as he studied their faces, he saw nothing but hatred and fear. The Altarian Federation delegate Ambassador Kryn was the only one who seemed uncomfortable with the proceedings. His crystalline blue skin flickered with nervous energy as he avoided eye contact with the human. The Altarians had been trading partners with humanity for 20 years, but even they would not speak. Up now, honored delegates. Tae-woo began, his voice steady despite the overwhelming pressure he felt pressing down on him. Humanity has come here seeking peace. We acknowledge that there have been conflicts, but we believe that reasonable beings can find reasonable solutions. The chamber erupted in angry voices and harsh sounds that hurt human ears. The Kalari Chancellor rose to his full imposing height of 12 feet, his scales rustling like armor plates grinding against each other. Reasonable, he roared. You speak of reason while your species spreads across the galaxy like a plague. You take our worlds, you steal our resources, you corrupt our young with your violent culture. There is nothing reasonable about humanity. The Zephyrian delegate pulsed brighter with anger. We have studied your history, human. Your species has never known true peace. Even on your own world, you fight constant wars. You cannot help yourselves. It is in your nature. Tae-woo felt something cold settle in his stomach as he realized what was really happening here. This was not a peace negotiation. This was a trial, and the verdict had already been decided. The galaxy had not invited humanity here to find a peaceful solution. They had brought them here to deliver an ultimatum. Queen Zara of the hive spoke next, her voice buzzing with the sound of 1,000,000 insects. Your species is too dangerous to be left alone. We have seen what happens when humans are allowed to grow unchecked. You become stronger, you become more aggressive, you become more of a threat. The human ambassador tried one more time to appeal to their better nature. Every species in this chamber has a history of conflict, he said, looking around at the assembled delegates. The Kellery Empire conquered 12 worlds before joining this council. The Draconians fought wars for 3 centuries. The Zephyrians absorbed 17 smaller civilizations, yet you all found peace. Why can you not believe that humanity can do the same because you are different? General Crick snarled. You adapt too quickly, you learn too fast, you never stop growing stronger. In 50 years you have achieved what took us 500 years. We cannot allow you to continue back on Earth. President Park So-young watched the proceedings through a quantum communication link. Her advisors sat around the situation room table in tense silence as they witnessed their ambassadors. Humiliation. Defense Minister Li Shangmin leaned forward with his jaw clenched tight. They planned this, he whispered to the president. This whole meeting was a setup. They never intended to negotiate. President Park nodded grimly as she watched the alien delegates mock and threaten her representative. She had suspected this might happen, but had hoped that reason would prevail. Now she could see that the galaxy had already made up its mind about humanity. The Kalari Chancellor continued his assault on the human ambassador. Your species has caused 3 border conflicts in just 50 years, he declared each time. You claim self-defense, but we know the truth. You are aggressors by nature. You cannot help but fight. Wu straightened his shoulders and looked directly at the towering alien. Those conflicts were started by your species, he said quietly, but firmly. Human ships were attacked first. Human colonies were threatened first. We only defended ourselves. The chamber fell silent for a moment as the delegates processed this unexpected show of defiance. Then the Zephyrian delegate began to pulse with dangerous energy. How dare you accuse us, she shrieked. Your species lies as easily as it breathes. The hive queen rose from her platform, her insectoid form clicking and buzzing with agitation. You see, she announced to the chamber, this is exactly what we mean. Humans cannot accept responsibility for their actions. They always blame others for their own violence. Wu felt the weight of billions of human lives pressing down on his shoulders. He knew that his next words could determine the fate of his entire species. He took a deep breath and spoke with all the dignity he could muster. We came here seeking peace, not surrender, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Humanity will not accept terms that ensure our destruction. As a free people, the silence that followed was deafening. Then Chancellor Vorth spoke in a voice like grinding stone. Then you have chosen war, human. The galaxy will not tolerate your species' aggression any longer. You have exactly 24 hours to reconsider our generous offer. As the session ended and the alien delegates began to file out of the chamber, Wu activated his emergency communicator. The coded message he sent to Earth was simple but clear. The peace talks had failed. It was time for humanity to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. The last thing he saw before leaving the chamber was the satisfied expressions on the alien faces. They believed they had won, that they had successfully cornered humanity with no way out. They had no idea that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. President Park So-young stood before the emergency holographic display in the United Earth Council chambers, watching as the faces of humanity's most important leaders flickered into view from across the galaxy. Each face showed the same mixture of anger, fear, and determination that she felt burning in her own chest. The aliens had made their position crystal clear. They wanted humanity broken, not peaceful. The holographic images showed leaders from every human colony, from the ice miners of Europa to the terraforming engineers of Kepler 442b. Each represented millions of lives that now hung in the balance, because 12 alien species had decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist as a free people. Admiral Han Seokjin stepped forward to address the council, his uniform crisp. Despite the emergency situation that had pulled him from his flagship, the data projections behind him showed the true scope of the threat facing humanity. Our intelligence networks have been tracking alien fleet movements for weeks, he announced grimly. The Kalari Empire has been positioning their battle groups along our border systems. The Zephyrian Collective has been charging their energy weapons stations. The Draconian Republic has recalled their deep space fleets. All signs point to a coordinated attack regardless of our response to their ultimatum. Dr. Yunmina, the galaxy's leading expert on alien psychology, added her analysis from her research station on Mars. I have studied these species for over 20 years, she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. They see us as an existential threat, not because of what we have done, but because of what we might become. In 50 years we have achieved technological and social advances that took them centuries, they fear that we will surpass them completely. The withdrawal order went out immediately across all human space. Every human diplomat, trader, scientist, and citizen living in alien territory received the same emergency message: return to human space immediately. This is not a drill. Bring only essential items and prepare for extended isolation. Captain Choi Hyun-woo commanded the merchant vessel, Sole Pride, as it raced through Kellery space toward the human border. His ship was packed with refugees fleeing the growing anti-human sentiment that had been building for months. The passengers huddled in the cargo bays told stories that painted a clear picture of what was really happening. They stopped buying from human shops. One elderly woman reported her name was Kim Min-young, and she had run a small restaurant on the Kalari world of Vex 7 for 15 years. At first they said it was just temporary, but then they started saying that human food was poisonous, that we were trying to corrupt their children. A young engineer named Lee Dong-ho had worked for the Zephyrian Collective for 8 years, designing power systems for their energy cities. They accused me of sabotage, he said. Bitterly, when I asked what I had done wrong, they said that humans always have hidden agendas. They searched my workstation and found nothing, but still terminated my contract. The stories kept coming from every corner of alien space. Human teachers were dismissed from schools for allegedly promoting violent human culture. Human doctors were banned from treating alien patients because they might be conducting experiments. Human artists had their works removed from galleries for being too aggressive. Commander Kim Do-yoon piloted the intelligence ship, inching through the dangerous route back to human space. Her cargo hold was filled with data chips and recording devices that told the true story of alien intentions. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. Our sources in the Galactic Council have confirmed our worst fears, she reported to Earth Command. There's a secret alliance between all 12 major species. They call it the Human Containment Protocol. They have been planning this for over 5 years. The peace talks were just theater to make themselves look reasonable before they attacked. The data revealed the true scope of alien deception. Every cultural exchange program had been designed to study human psychology. Every trade agreement had hidden clauses that gave aliens access to human technology. Every diplomatic mission had been secretly gathering intelligence about human military capabilities. On the remote research station orbiting the gas giant Titan 7, Dr. Song Jae-hyun made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the human command structure. The alien gifts of technology that had been presented as gestures of friendship contained hidden monitoring systems. They have been watching us, learning our capabilities, planning our destruction. He transmitted to Earth in an encrypted message: every piece of alien technology in human space is a potential spy device. They know our ship designs, our weapon systems, our defensive capabilities. They have been preparing for this war while we believed we were building friendships. The withdrawal revealed just how deeply alien surveillance had penetrated human society. Tourist groups had been intelligence-gathering missions. Scientific expeditions had been reconnaissance operations. Even children exchange programs had been designed to study human development patterns. Captain Park Jin-soo commanded the heavy transport vessel, the Sun Guardian, as it evacuated human families from the Draconian Republic. His passengers included children who had never seen Earth but were now being forced to flee the only homes they had ever known. The Draconian authorities searched every human leaving their space. One mother named Yusora reported they claimed they were looking for stolen technology, but they were really trying to intimidate us. They wanted us to feel like criminals for being human. As the evacuation fleet gathered at the border of human space, the true scale of the alien betrayal became clear. Thousands of ships carrying millions of people, all fleeing a galaxy that had turned against them. The refugee camps on the border worlds overflowed with families who had lost everything, but something else was happening during the withdrawal, something that the aliens did not expect. Humanity was not just running away, they were regrouping. Every ship that returned to human space brought with it detailed intelligence about alien weaknesses. Every refugee carried knowledge about alien technology, and Galactic's engineer Oh Tae-yang worked frantically at the shipyards of Mars, converting civilian vessels into something more dangerous. He had spent 10 years working in alien shipyards and knew exactly how their technology worked. They think they know everything about us, he told his team as they installed new weapon systems into a former passenger liner, but we know things about them too. We know how their shields work, how their engines function, how their weapons operate. They studied us, but we studied them right back. The withdrawal was revealing something that would change everything. Humanity had not just been living in alien space, they had been learning. Every human who had worked for an alien company had gained valuable technical knowledge. Every human who had studied at an alien university had learned their scientific methods. Every human who had served in mixed alien-human crews had observed their military tactics. Admiral Han coordinated the final phase of the withdrawal from his command ship, the Incheon. Rising as the last human vessels crossed into human space, he activated protocols that had been secretly prepared for years. All alien monitoring stations in human space went dark simultaneously. The quantum communication relays that aliens used to spy on human activities suddenly stopped functioning. The trade routes that had connected human and alien space were quietly blocked by automated defense systems. The galaxy expected humanity to collapse under the pressure of isolation. Instead, they found themselves facing something they had never encountered before: complete communication blackout from human space. No distress signals, no diplomatic overtures, no desperate pleas for mercy. 3 days after the withdrawal was complete, the last human ship crossed the border. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for humanity to break. But the silence that followed was more terrifying than any scream. In the depths of space, automated systems began their work. Systems that had been secretly installed over years of apparent cooperation, systems that would soon show the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of when pushed beyond the breaking point. The aliens had wanted to see human nature. They were about to get their wish. 3 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared into their own space, and the galaxy was experiencing something it had never known before: complete and total silence from an entire species. The communication networks that had buzzed with human voices for 50 years now carried nothing but empty static. The trade routes that had connected human and alien worlds stood vacant like abandoned highways. Supreme Commander Vorth of the Kalari Empire paced back and forth in his command center, his massive blue-scaled form casting shadows on the walls around him. His advisors cowered as he demanded answers that none of them could provide. The intelligence networks that had taken decades to build had been systematically destroyed. Where are they? He roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. They should be sending desperate messages, begging for mercy. They should be trying to negotiate new terms. Instead, we hear nothing, absolutely nothing. His chief intelligence officer, a smaller Kalari named Zex, trembled as he delivered his report. Supreme Commander, our monitoring stations along the human border have gone completely dark. Every listening post, every spy satellite, every hidden sensor has stopped transmitting. We are blind. The Zephyrian Collective tried to penetrate human space with their consciousness probes, beings of pure energy that could slip through most defensive systems. But when they reached the border of human territory, they encountered something that had never happened before in their long history: complete sensory blackout. High Conductor Zara of the Zephyrian Council flickered with confusion and fear as she addressed her fellow energy beings. We cannot see into human space, she announced, her voice crackling with static. Our probes encounter some kind of barrier that blocks all forms of energy perception. It is as if human space has become a void in the universe. The industrial world of Titan 7 had been a joint operation between humans and the Draconian Republic. For over 20 years, human engineers had designed the mining systems, while Draconian workers had operated the heavy machinery. The partnership had been profitable for both species until the day everything changed. General Crix of the Draconian Republic reviewed the security footage from Titan 7 with growing unease. The human workers had simply walked away from their posts in perfect coordination, leaving behind sophisticated facilities that continued to operate on autopilot. They knew this was coming, he muttered to his staff officers. They prepared for this evacuation months in advance. Every human facility was designed to run without human presence. They planned this entire scenario. The footage showed human workers calmly shutting down sensitive systems, transferring control to automated programs, and then boarding transport ships without any sign of panic or fear. It was the most organized evacuation in galactic history. Queen Zara of the Hive received reports from her scouts That made her compound eyes click with anxiety. The human colonies that her species had been monitoring for intelligence gathering had become ghost towns. Overnight, not destroyed, not damaged, just empty, Your Majesty, her chief scout reported the human settlements show no signs of violence or forced evacuation. The buildings are intact, the power systems are running, but there are no life signs anywhere. It is as if the humans simply vanished. The galaxy's economy began to shake as the true scope of human involvement became clear. They had not just been participants in galactic trade, they had been essential to its operation. Supply chains that had functioned smoothly for decades suddenly collapsed as crucial relay stations went offline. The Altarian Federation found themselves unable to transport goods between their core worlds and their outer colonies. The quantum communication network that connected their government began to fail. The banking systems that processed interstellar transactions started showing. Era's ambassador Kryn of the Altarian Federation addressed an emergency session of his People's Council with fear in his crystalline features. We never realized how dependent we had become on human infrastructure, he admitted. Our engineers are struggling to understand systems that humans built and maintained for us. Dr. Vex of the Axiom Institute, the galaxy's premier research organization, made a discovery that sent shockwaves through every civilized world. His team had been analyzing human trade patterns and communication logs from the past 50 years. The report he delivered to the Galactic Council was terrifying in its implications. The humans were not just trading goods, he announced, they were mapping our entire civilization, every trade route, every military installation, every population center, every technological facility. They have complete intelligence on all of us. The data showed that human traders had visited every major world in the galaxy. Human scientists had studied in every important research facility. Human diplomats had toured every significant military base. Under the guise of cultural exchange and commercial activity, humanity had assembled the most comprehensive intelligence network in galactic history. Chancellor Vorth received the report with growing horror. They know everything, he whispered. Our fleet positions, our weapon capabilities, our supply lines, our defensive systems. They have been preparing for this war while we thought we were negotiating peace. The silence from human space became more menacing with each passing day. It was not the silence of defeat, but the silence of preparation. The galaxy had pushed humanity into isolation, expecting them to collapse. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous: automated probes continued their silent vigil along the borders of human space, monitoring alien activities with mechanical precision. The galaxy had never felt so watched, so vulnerable. Every ship movement, every communication, every military exercise was being observed and recorded. The Hive Queen called an emergency meeting of her sub-queens, her insectoid form clicking with agitation. We have made a terrible mistake, she announced. The humans did not retreat, they regrouped. They are not hiding, they are preparing. The economic collapse accelerated as more systems failed. The banking networks that processed interstellar commerce began to malfunction. The transportation systems that moved goods between worlds started breaking down. The communication networks that connected civilizations across the galaxy flickered and died. Ambassador Kryn voiced what everyone was thinking during a closed session of the Galactic Council. We underestimated them, he said quietly. We thought they were just another aggressive species that could be bullied into submission. We never considered that they might be intelligent enough to turn our own systems against us. The military implications were even more frightening. Every major species had shared technology with humans during the decades of apparent cooperation: Kellery shield generators, Zephyrian energy weapons, draconian armor systems, hive navigation computers. All of it had been studied, analyzed, and probably improved upon. General Crix attempted to contact his counterparts in other species militaries, but found that even secure military communications were failing. The networks that connected the Galactic Military Alliance had been compromised in ways that no one understood. The silence stretched on week after week, month after month. It was not the silence of death, but the silence of transformation. Something was happening in human space, something that the galaxy was not prepared for. In the depths of space, automated systems continued their work. Systems that had been secretly installed over years of apparent cooperation. systems that would soon reveal what humanity had become during their months of isolation. The galaxy was about to learn that they had not cornered a weak species, they had awakened something that should have been left alone. 6 months after humanity disappeared into the silence of their own space, the galaxy faced its first real crisis. The outer colonies of the Kalari Empire came under attack by forces that seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. The attacks were surgical in their accuracy, targeting only military installations while leaving civilian populations completely untouched. Chancellor Vorth stood in his war room staring at holographic displays that showed the destruction of 3 military bases in the past week. The footage from the attacks was disturbing not because of the violence but because of the cold efficiency displayed by the attackers. How did they become so advanced so quickly? He demanded of his strategic advisors. The ships in these recordings use human design principles, but they are far beyond anything in our intelligence databases. General Yex, a former human ally who had switched sides before the peace talks, provided the answer that chilled everyone in the room. Sir, humans do not just adapt to threats, they evolve in response to them. When faced with extinction, they accelerate their development at a rate that defies our understanding. We gave them 6 months of focused preparation time. The Zephyrian Collective attempted to negotiate, sending energy-based envoys toward human space, hoping to establish some kind of communication. The envoys encountered automated defense systems that seemed to predict their every move, anticipating their tactics and countering them with technology that was beyond their comprehension. High Conductor Zara flickered with confusion as she addressed her council. Our envoys report that human defenses are not just advanced, they are fundamentally different. The technology operates on principles we do not understand, as if they have discovered entirely new laws of physics. Captain Park Jin-ho commanded the human strike force responsible for the attacks on Kalari positions. His ship, the Bazung Revenge, represented a new philosophy that humanity had embraced during their months of isolation: overwhelming technological superiority combined with tactical brilliance that treated war as a science. They wanted to see human nature, he told his crew as they prepared for their next mission. Let us show them what we are truly capable of when we are united by a common threat. They thought they could break us apart, but instead they forged us into something stronger. The attacks were not random acts of violence, but carefully planned strikes designed to cripple the galaxy's ability to wage war against humanity. Communication networks failed as quantum relays were destroyed with pinpoint accuracy. Supply lines collapsed as distribution centers were disabled. Military academies that trained the next generation of alien officers found their facilities mysteriously offline. Dr. Lin So-ho, now serving as humanity's chief weapons designer, had spent the months of isolation developing countermeasures for every known alien technology. His team worked around the clock in secret facilities deep within human space. They studied us for decades, he explained to his research team. Now we use that knowledge against them. Every weakness, every limitation, every design flaw in their systems we have cataloged and exploited. The galaxy's response was fragmented and completely ineffective. Species that had demanded human submission now scrambled to defend their own territories. The Draconian Republic recalled their fleets from human borders to protect their homeworld. The Hive Queen's forces retreated into defensive positions around their core systems. Each attack demonstrated capabilities that the galaxy had never imagined. Possible stealth technology that rendered human ships completely invisible to alien sensors. Weapon systems that adapted to enemy shields in real time, learning and adjusting with each shot. Tactical programs that seemed to predict alien responses. With supernatural accuracy, the Altarian Federation lost 3 monitoring stations in a single night. The attacks came from directions that should have been impossible to approach undetected. The human ships struck and vanished, leaving behind only the wreckage of sophisticated surveillance equipment. Ambassador Kryn reviewed the battle footage with his military advisors, his crystalline features flickering with fear and respect. They are not just fighting back, he observed, they are demonstrating their evolution from a primitive species to something that the galaxy should fear. The Draconian Republic attempted to reinforce their border defenses, but found that their own systems were failing in ways that made no sense. Weapon targeting computers malfunctioned at critical moments, shield generators overloaded without warning. Communication systems transmitted false information to their own forces. General Crix realized with growing horror that the humans had not just studied alien technology. They had learned how to turn it against its creators. Every system that had been shared with humanity during decades of cooperation had been analyzed, understood, and weaponized. The Hive Queens scouts reported encounters with human vessels that defied everything they knew about space combat. The ships moved in patterns that should have been impossible, changing direction without regard for momentum or inertia. They seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing behind enemy lines without using known hyperspace routes. Queen Zara called an emergency meeting of her sub-queens, her compound eyes reflecting the fear that was spreading through her collective consciousness. They have not just advanced their technology, she announced. They have transcended our understanding of what is possible. The economic warfare was even more devastating than the military attacks. Banking systems crashed as human-created programs activated dormant code that had been hidden in financial software. For years, trade routes became unusable as navigation computers began providing false readings. Transportation networks failed as control systems rejected commands from their own operators. Dr. Vex of the Axiom Institute made a terrifying discovery. While analyzing the pattern of system failures, the humans did not just gather intelligence during their time in our space. He reported to the Galactic Council they planted sophisticated programs in our most critical systems, programs that have been dormant for years waiting for activation. The galaxy began to understand that they were not facing a conventional military response. They were experiencing something that no species had ever encountered before: a coordinated campaign of technological warfare that used their own systems against them. Admiral Han coordinated the human response from his flagship, the Sol Rising. His tactical displays showed alien fleet movements across the galaxy as species after species pulled back from human borders. They are learning that we are not the primitive, aggressive species they believed us to be, he told his staff officers. We have shown them that humans do not just fight with weapons and ships, we fight with intelligence, planning, and the ability to turn any advantage into victory. The message was becoming clear to every species in the galaxy. Humanity was not just fighting back, they were demonstrating capabilities that redefined what warfare could be. They had evolved beyond the limited thinking that had constrained galactic conflict for centuries. The attacks continued with increasing frequency and sophistication. Each strike revealed new capabilities that the galaxy had never imagined possible. The humans were not just showing their strength, they were teaching the galaxy a lesson about the price of underestimating a species that refused to accept defeat. The reckoning had begun, and the galaxy was starting to understand that they had not just awakened a sleeping giant. They had created a new form of life that would forever change the balance of power among the stars. The truth about humanity's transformation became clear when the Altarian Federation science vessel Wisdom Light encountered a human patrol ship near the border of human space. It was the first direct contact between humans and aliens in 8 months, and the galaxy watched with desperate attention as Captain Bei Haijin of the Daegu Honor agreed to a brief communication. We know that every species in the galaxy is monitoring this conversation, Haijin told the Altarian commander, her voice calm and confident. Good. We want them to hear what we have to say. Dr. Kor, the Altarian expedition leader, asked the question that was troubling every species in the galaxy. What have you become? He asked with genuine fear in his voice. The humans we knew could never have achieved what we have witnessed. Captain Haijin smiled, and her expression was both sad and terrifying. We have become what you feared. We always were, she replied. The difference is that now we are united in purpose. You wanted to break us apart, to make us weak and scattered. Instead, you forged us into something stronger than any single species in the galaxy. The revelation spread through galactic intelligence networks like wildfire. Humanity had not just advanced technologically. During their months of isolation, they had evolved socially in ways that the galaxy had never seen before. The threat of extinction had unified the species like never before. Every human colony, every ship, every citizen now worked toward a single goal: survival through strength. The petty divisions that had weakened humanity for centuries had been swept away by the common threat. The humans had become something that the galaxy had never encountered before, a truly unified species engineer. Oh, Taeyang worked on the secret project that humans called Genesis in the deep space facilities that had been hidden from alien observation for decades. The project represented humanity's ultimate response to galactic aggression. They gave us a choice, he explained to his team as they put the finishing touches on technology that would reshape the galaxy. Submit or die. We chose a third option, evolve beyond their ability to threaten us. The Genesis project was not just about military technology. It was about fundamental changes to human society and capability. While the aliens had focused on building bigger weapons and stronger shields, humanity had developed something far more dangerous: the ability to adapt faster than any species in the galaxy. Admiral Han revealed the true scope of human preparation during a classified briefing with the leadership of the United Earth Council. The holographic displays showed networks of hidden facilities, secret research projects, and technological advances that had been developed in complete secrecy. Every human who lived in alien space was an intelligence gatherer, he announced. Every trade deal was reconnaissance. Every cultural exchange was an opportunity to study our enemies' weaknesses and learn their capabilities. We have been preparing for this confrontation for decades. The galaxy's greatest fear was confirmed when human ships began appearing in systems that had been considered unreachable by conventional faster-than-light travel. The humans had developed new methods of space travel that bypassed the known hyperspace lanes, allowing them to strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Dr. Yun Mina had spent years studying alien psychology, and her research had proved crucial to humanity's new strategy. She had discovered that every species in the galaxy shared the same fundamental weakness. They had become comfortable with peace. Humans are the only species that remembers what it means to fight for survival, she reported to the human leadership. That is our greatest advantage. We never forgot that peace is a luxury, not a guarantee. Every other species has grown soft during centuries of cooperation. The revelation continued as more details emerged about humanity's transformation. The months of isolation had not been spent in fear or despair, but in the most intensive period of development in human history. Every scientific breakthrough, every technological advance, every strategic insight had been shared instantly across all human worlds. Captain Park Jin-ho demonstrated the new human philosophy during a strike against a killer military installation. His ship moved through enemy defenses like they did not exist, striking with precision that seemed almost supernatural. We do not fight like they do, he explained to his crew over the communication system. They think in terms of individual ships and separate battles. We think in terms of coordinated systems and total victory. The economic implications were staggering. The humans had not just withdrawn from galactic trade, they had taken with them the knowledge and skills that had made galactic civilization possible. The supply chains that connected worlds across the galaxy had been dependent on human innovation and efficiency. Ambassador Kryn tried to explain the scope of the disaster to his government. The humans were not just participants in our economy, he reported. They were the invisible backbone that made everything work. Without them, our civilization is slowly collapsing. The military situation was even worse. Every major species had shared their most advanced technology with humans during decades of cooperation, believing that they were building trust and friendship. Instead, they had given their future enemies complete knowledge of their capabilities. General Crix reviewed intelligence reports with growing despair. They know everything about us, our weapons, our tactics, our weaknesses, our fears, but we know almost nothing about what they have become. During their isolation, the Hive Queen made a discovery that terrified her collective consciousness. The humans had not just studied alien technology, they had improved upon it in ways that defied understanding. Human weapons were more efficient. Human shields were stronger. Human ships were faster. They took our gifts and made them better, she announced to her sub-queens. How is this possible? How can a species advance so quickly? An answer came from an unexpected source, General Yex, the former human ally who had provided intelligence about human nature, spoke to a gathering of military leaders from across the galaxy. Humans do not just learn from their experiences, he explained, they learn from the experiences of every other human. Every discovery, every innovation, every tactical insight is shared instantly across their entire species. They evolve collectively, not individually. The revelation was complete. The galaxy had not just underestimated human military capability, they had fundamentally misunderstood what humanity was capable of becoming when faced with extinction. The humans had not just survived the threat, they had transcended it. Dr. Song J. Hyan, now director of the Human Advancement Institute, summarized the transformation in a message that was broadcast to every human world. We were tested by the galaxy and we passed that test. We have become something new, something that they cannot break or control. The galaxy was beginning to understand that they had not cornered a weak species, they had awakened a sleeping giant that was now fully awake and very, very angry. The humans were no longer just another species struggling for survival in a hostile galaxy. They had become something that the galaxy had never seen before. A unified, technologically advanced, and absolutely determined civilization that would not be stopped by any force in the universe. The revelation was terrifying in its implications. The galaxy had created their own worst nightmare, and now they would have to face the consequences of their actions. 1 year after the failed peace talks that had started this entire crisis, the Galactic Council met in emergency session for what many believed would be the last time. The Great Chamber of Nexus Station that had once echoed with arrogant demands for human submission now filled with the desperate voices of species facing extinction. Half the galaxy's military infrastructure lay in ruins, not from massive battles but from surgical strikes that had crippled their ability to wage war. The economic systems that had connected civilizations across the galaxy had collapsed as human-designed programs activated to destroy the networks from within. Chancellor Vorth of the Kalari Empire stood before the assembled delegates, his once proud bearing now broken by months of defeat. His empire had lost more territory to human strikes than they had conquered in 3 centuries of expansion. We must offer unconditional surrender, he announced to the shocked silence of the chamber. Perhaps if we admit our mistakes and beg for mercy, they will show us the same compassion we refuse to show them. The Zephyrian representative, now flickering weakly as her energy reserves were depleted by constant defensive operations, spoke with a voice that crackled with static and desperation. Humans do not want conquest, she said. They want acknowledgement. They want us to admit that we were wrong about them. Queen Zara of the Hive, her collective consciousness fractured by the psychological pressure of constant defeats, spoke the truth that everyone feared to hear aloud. We created this situation. We pushed them beyond their breaking point. We treated them like animals, and now we face the consequences of our arrogance. The economic data painted a picture of galactic civilization in collapse. Trade between worlds had fallen to less than 10% of pre-war levels. Manufacturing systems failed as essential components became unavailable. Transportation networks broke down as navigation systems provided false readings. Ambassador Kryn of the Altarian Federation had opposed the original ultimatum to humanity, and now he volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. He would travel to Earth to request new peace negotiations, knowing that he might not survive the encounter. The galaxy has learned a terrible lesson, he told the Council. We thought we could bully humanity into submission because we outnumbered them. We never considered that they might be stronger than all of us combined. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks through space that had become a maze of human-controlled systems. Alien ships were allowed to pass, but only under constant surveillance by invisible human vessels that tracked their every movement. Kryn arrived at Earth to find a world that had been transformed. The blue planet was surrounded by defensive installations that defied conventional understanding of technology. Space elevators reached toward the stars while massive orbital platforms hummed with energy that made the very fabric of space tremble. President Park, so young, now leading a species that had been forged by conflict into something unprecedented in galactic history, received the alien envoy in Seoul. The meeting was broadcast throughout human space, showing the galaxy that humanity was still capable of mercy despite everything that had happened. We were wrong, Kryn admitted as he stood before the human leader, his crystalline form flickering with shame and fear. We let our fear of your potential drive us to make terrible decisions. We destroyed the peace that could have benefited all of us. We begged for a chance to make amends. President Park studied the alien delegate with eyes that had seen her species pushed to the brink of extinction and emerged stronger than ever. Before the response she gave would echo through galactic history for generations to come. You wanted to see human nature, she said quietly. You have seen it. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to be left alone to grow and thrive in peace, but we will never again allow ourselves to be vulnerable to the threat of extinction. The terms that humanity presented were harsh but fair, considering the alternative: complete withdrawal of all alien military forces from human space, formal recognition of human sovereignty over all systems they had colonized, establishment of neutral zones to prevent future conflicts. Most importantly, the galaxy would provide guarantees that humanity would never again face the coordinated threat of extinction. The species that had tried to break humanity would ensure that such a situation could never arise again. Admiral Han addressed the human fleet as they prepared to stand down from their war footing. His words broadcast to every human world and every alien government. We did not want this war, but we finished it, he announced. We have shown the galaxy that humans are not just survivors, we are protectors of our own future. We will never again be the weak species that others can threaten with impunity. The galaxy accepted the human terms not out of generosity, but from desperate necessity. They had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their advanced technology or their military might, but their absolute refusal to accept defeat. The peace negotiations took place on neutral ground at a space station that had been constructed specifically for this purpose. The talks were conducted with a respect that had been completely absent from the original ultimatum. Dr. Song Jae-hyun, now director of the Human Advancement Institute, explained the transformation that had taken place within humanity during their months of isolation. They tried to break us, he told the assembled delegates. Instead, they taught us that we are stronger than we ever imagined, that knowledge will define humanity's future among the stars. The final treaty established a new balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity would maintain their independence and continue their expansion, but within agreed boundaries. The alien species would respect human sovereignty in exchange for an end to the technological warfare that had brought them to their knees. The galaxy learned to fear not human aggression but human determination. They had pushed humanity to the edge of extinction and discovered that humans do not just survive, they thrive under pressure. The species that had seemed primitive and violent had proven to be the most adaptable and resilient in the galaxy. Captain Bae Hai-jin commanded the human vessel that would patrol the new neutral zone, ensuring that the peace would be maintained. Her ship, the Daeguaner, carried sensors that could detect any hostile movement across dozens of star systems. The peace that followed was not built on alien terms or human conquest, but on mutual respect that had been earned through strength. The galaxy finally understood that humanity's place among the stars was not as subjects or conquerors, but as equals who refused to accept anything less. The lesson was clear to every species in the galaxy: never again would they make the mistake of underestimating humanity. The humans had shown them that there are some species that cannot be broken no matter how much pressure is applied. The galaxy had tried to force humanity to submit and instead had created something that would change the balance of power forever. The humans had not just survived their trial by fire, they had emerged as the most formidable civilization in known space. The peace treaty was signed with ceremonies that were broadcast across the galaxy, showing that even the most bitter conflicts could end in mutual understanding. President Park signed for humanity while the alien delegates acknowledged their mistakes and promised to honor the new agreements. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not just another species to be managed or controlled. They were a force of nature that would shape the future of galactic civilization for generations to come. The war was over, but the galaxy would never forget the lesson that humanity had taught them. Some species cannot be broken, and trying to break them will only make them stronger.